I know some of you won't believe me, but I need to tell my story. It's been eating me alive for months now, and if I don't get it out, I might lose my mind. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not even sure I deserve it. But I have to tell you the truth, even if it sounds like something out of a horror movie. You see, sometimes the truth is far stranger and darker than anything you can imagine. My name is David Rivers, and I've always lived a normal life. Well, at least, I thought I did. Until that one night. The night everything changed. It all started with a phone call. A call that shouldn't have come, but did. I was sitting in my apartment, alone, as usual, watching TV and trying to drown out the quiet that had settled into my life after I lost my wife, Lily. She'd passed away a year earlier in a car accident. Just like that, everything I thought I knew, everything I loved, was ripped away. I wasn't prepared for it. Who is? Anyway, that night, I picked up the phone without thinking. I'm not even sure why I did it. The number wasn't one I recognized, and usually, I don't answer calls from strangers. But this time, something made me press the green button. Hello, I said, trying to sound casual. Though my heart was already starting to pound for no reason I could put my finger on. A deep voice responded, cold and calm, almost too calm for comfort. David Rivers? Yeah, this is he. Who's this? You don't know me, but I know you. And I know your wife. The voice was oddly familiar, but I couldn't place it. My pulse quickened. What do you want? I'm here to help you. The voice said, almost too smoothly. You've been chosen. Chosen for something bigger than you can understand right now. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but something about his voice, it made my skin crawl. And yet, I couldn't hang up. What the hell are you talking about? The voice paused. Your wife, Lily, she didn't die in that accident, David. It was no accident. She was taken, and so were you. You just don't know it yet. I froze. It felt like the world stopped spinning for a second. What do you mean? She's gone. She. Listen closely. I'll explain, but you have to trust me. If you don't, everything will spiral out of control, and you won't survive what's coming. I could feel a cold sweat breaking out on my back, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. My voice trembled. Why are you telling me this? Who are you? The voice grew colder, more menacing. I'm someone who knows what you've done, or rather, what your wife did. She was involved in something dark, something dangerous, and it's come back to finish what it started. And you're in the middle of it, David. You just don't realize it yet. I sat there in stunned silence. My mind raced. This wasn't possible. This was just some sick prank, wasn't it? I don't believe you. You've got the wrong guy, I managed to say, though I was starting to feel like I was slipping away into some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But then the voice dropped the bombshell. Lily made a deal with something not human. And now it's your turn. You're next. My blood ran cold. I barely heard the rest of what the man said. I was in shock. This couldn't be real. But something about it, it felt too real. I dropped the phone, my hand shaking. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, staring at the empty apartment. The same empty apartment Lily and I had shared. Everything in it reminded me of her, of what I'd lost. But now, it felt like there was something else here with me. Something watching. The next few days were a blur. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear that voice. That cold, emotionless voice telling me that I was being dragged into something terrible. Something beyond my understanding. I didn't know who to trust anymore. Then, something happened. Something I still can't explain. I started seeing things. At first, it was subtle, a shadow moving across the corner of my vision. It would vanish as soon as I turned to look, but I knew what I saw. I could feel its presence in the room, like it was just waiting for me to acknowledge it. Then came the whispers. At night, when I lay in bed, I would hear them. Soft, raspy whispers that would come from the dark corners of the room. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew they were meant for me. And somehow, I knew they were connected to Lily, connected to whatever it was she had gotten involved with before her death. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself I was just grieving, that it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But I couldn't. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront whatever was haunting me, whatever had invaded my life. I grabbed a flashlight and crept through the apartment, checking every room, looking for the source of those whispers. But there was nothing, nothing except the sound of my own breath, loud in the silence. That's when I found it. In the closet, Lily's old box of personal belongings. I hadn't been able to open it since her death. But tonight, I had to know. I needed to know what she had hidden from me. I had to understand what had happened to her. I opened the box, and that's when I saw it. A photo. A photo of Lily with a man I didn't recognize. They were standing together, smiling. But the thing that stood out the most wasn't the photo. It was the way they were looking at each other. The intensity in their eyes was unsettling. On the back of the photo, written in red ink, was a single sentence. "You can never escape the deal. It's been made." I felt my stomach churn. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the photo, the sound of it hitting the floor echoing through the apartment. And that's when I heard it, the voice again, but this time it wasn't on the phone. It was right behind me. "You're too late," it whispered. I turned around, my heart racing, but there was no one there. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. It wasn't just the whispers or the shadows. I felt like I was being followed. Every step I took, every corner I turned, I felt a pair of eyes on me. It was as though the world itself had turned against me, and I was trapped in a nightmare that wouldn't end. For days, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see the photo of Lily with that man. Who was he? Why had she hidden this from me? The questions gnawed at me, making it impossible to focus on anything else. I tried to move on with my life. I even went to work, forcing myself to act like everything was normal. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen, something I wasn't ready for. The calls kept coming, too. Sometimes they would come in the middle of the day, when I was trying to work, and other times they would ring in the dead of night. The voice on the other end was always the same, calm, calculated, and filled with a chilling certainty. "You're getting closer, David. You're starting to see the truth, but it's too late." Each call left me shaken, my heart racing in my chest. I had tried to block the number, but they always found a way through. It was as if whoever was behind it all knew my every move. One night, a week after the first call, I found myself in Lily's old study, going through her things. I needed answers, and I couldn't keep ignoring the fact that something was wrong. Something dark was lurking in the corners of my life, and I was running out of time to figure it out. As I rifled through her desk drawers, my hand brushed against a small, leather-bound book. It was tucked away, hidden beneath a pile of old papers. I opened it, and what I saw inside made my blood run cold. The book was filled with strange symbols, drawings that seemed to twist and shift before my eyes. But what caught my attention was the final page. In the center of the page was a detailed drawing of a creature, half human, half shadow. The figure was surrounded by runes and symbols I couldn't understand. It looked almost alive. Beneath the drawing, there was a note written in Lily's handwriting. "The deal is sealed. He is coming. There is no escape." The room felt suffocating. I could barely breathe as I stared at the page, my mind struggling to comprehend what it all meant. But I couldn't stop looking. I had to know. I had to understand what was happening to me. Suddenly, I heard it, a soft scratching sound, like nails scraping across the floor. I turned, but no one was there. The room was empty, just like it had been when I entered. I was about to get up and leave when something caught my eye. It was a small, black box sitting on the shelf in the corner of the room. I didn't remember seeing it before. It was old, covered in dust, as though it had been there for years. but something about it called to me. I stood up and walked over to it, my heart pounding in my chest. The moment I touched the box, I felt a jolt run through me, a cold, tingling sensation that shot up my arm. I opened the box, and inside, I found an old, rusted key. There was no note, no explanation, just the key. For a moment, I stood there, frozen, my mind racing. What was this key for? What did it unlock? And then it hit me. That key, it had to be connected to something Lily had left behind. Something important. I rushed to the back of the study, where I remembered there being a locked door. It had always been locked, even when Lily was alive. She never told me what was behind it. I assumed it was just another closet, maybe with old stuff she didn't want to deal with. But now I wasn't so sure. I inserted the key into the lock. It turned with a loud, unsettling click, and the door creaked open. Inside was a small, dimly lit room. It was filled with old furniture covered in sheets, and dust had collected in every corner. But in the center of the room, there was something that caught my eye. A mirror. It was large, framed in black wood, with intricate designs carved into it. I had never seen it before. It didn't belong here. I stepped closer, my reflection barely visible in the dark glass. Then, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Behind me, in the reflection, stood a figure. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. But as I turned around, I saw nothing. When I looked back into the mirror, the figure was still there. It was a man, but not just any man. He looked like the man in the photo, Lily's companion. But there was something wrong with him. His eyes were hollow, black pits, and his skin was pale, almost translucent. And then his lips moved. "You're too late, David," he whispered, his voice low and venomous. I stumbled back, horrified. The room spun around me. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But the man in the mirror, he was still there, smiling at me, his eyes full of malice. I couldn't take it anymore. I ran out of the room, slamming the door behind me. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't safe. Not anymore. I had to find out what Lily had gotten herself involved in. I had to stop whatever was coming for me before it was too late. Days went by, and I found myself drowning in a sea of questions. I knew something dark and dangerous was unfolding, but I couldn't quite grasp what it was. The anxiety and fear within me were growing, like a weight on my chest that I couldn't shake off. I made a decision. I had to uncover the full truth, or something terrible was going to happen. One evening, when the silence of the night was broken by a knock at my door, I quickly opened it. There was a letter on the doorstep with no name or address on it. I picked it up and opened it, revealing a single page with a simple message written on it. "You know what Lily was hiding, but there's more you need to understand. He won't let you go." My heart raced as I read the words. I scanned the page again, but there was nothing else written. Who knows this? I thought. And why? My mind raced. On one hand, I was trying to understand Lily's secrets, and on the other, that face kept haunting me. The man, his face, it was still clear in my mind, etched like a scar that wouldn't fade. I returned to the room where I had been searching and looked at the books and the letter again. But this time, something was different. The leather-bound book had strange marks on the pages that I hadn't noticed before. I opened the book and began flipping through its pages one by one. On one page, there were odd symbols, written in an ancient script, and beneath it was a sentence. "Whoever reads this book will no longer be the master of their fate." A chill ran down my spine. Was this book really part of some dark, supernatural power? Had Lily made some kind of pact that could destroy both of us? I quickly slammed the book shut and hid it inside a drawer in my room. But the thoughts of it wouldn't leave my mind. Every moment, I kept thinking about that man. the one who had been in the mirror. Where was he now? What did he want? The next day, I decided to find more answers. I reached out to Lily's old friends, the ones she had never mentioned. One of them, Jason, agreed to meet me at a small cafe. We sat down, and I began asking him about Lily. He hesitated before speaking. Lily always kept things hidden, David. There were things she never talked about, but there was something deep, something connected to her past. It wasn't good. I asked him more questions, but Jason grew evasive, and eventually, he just got up and left without saying much more. I could tell he was hiding something. It became clear to me that Lily's past held some deep, dark secrets, and I had to uncover them before it was too late. Back at home, I couldn't stop thinking about the strange man in the mirror and the symbols in the book. What if everything I thought I knew was wrong? I needed to confront whatever was haunting me, the man, the book, and Lily's hidden truths. Later that night, the phone rang again. The voice on the other end was as cold and calculated as always, but this time, there was something different, a threat. You're too late, David. There's nothing you can do to stop what's coming. You've already crossed the line. The line went dead, and I was left staring at the phone, its echo still lingering in the air. A sense of dread washed over me. This was getting more complicated, more dangerous. I wasn't just dealing with memories of Lily anymore. Something far worse was coming, and I didn't know how to stop it. That night, I made a choice. I had to find out who this mysterious man was, and what his connection to Lily was. I began gathering all the information I could, and I knew I was getting closer to the truth. There was no turning back now. Would I be able to uncover the truth? Could I save myself from whatever was coming? These questions echoed in my mind, and I was determined to find the answers, no matter the cost. By now, I was knee-deep in the investigation, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every night, I checked my locks, bolted the windows, and double-checked the door, as though somehow it could protect me from the chaos that was closing in on me. But even with all those precautions, the sense of dread never left. Something, or someone, was out there, and I was getting too close to the truth. The phone calls had stopped for a while, but now there was an eerie silence, like a storm brewing just out of sight. And then, on one of those sleepless nights, I received another letter. It wasn't on my doorstep this time. It was slipped under the door as if someone knew exactly how to get inside without leaving a trace. I picked it up and opened it slowly, a sense of unease spreading through my chest. The paper was aged, yellowing around the edges, and the handwriting was in bold, slanted letters. You think you found the answers, David, but you've only uncovered the first layer. The real truth lies beneath. Find the safe. It's all hidden there. Time is running out. I stared at the letter for a moment, my breath catching in my throat. What safe? What was hidden? I had no idea what it was referring to, but I had to find out. My mind raced, thinking back to every interaction, every piece of information I had gathered. And then it hit me, Lily. There was a safe hidden somewhere in her apartment. She had mentioned it in passing a long time ago, but I had never paid much attention to it. Now, it felt like the key to everything. I grabbed my jacket and rushed to her place, determined to find this safe. The city was still asleep as I entered her building. The stairwell creaked under my weight as I made my way up to her apartment. Everything felt different. The air was heavier, charged with an unsettling energy. When I reached her door, I hesitated for a moment. The last time I had been here, things had gone terribly wrong. But tonight, I had to confront whatever was inside. I carefully opened the door, and the familiar, musty smell of her apartment hit me. It was eerily quiet, the silence almost suffocating. I walked around, scanning the room for any sign of the safe. Her belongings were still scattered around, old books, photographs, and trinkets. It was as if she had just left in a hurry. But something didn't sit right. The place felt abandoned, as though no one had lived there in years. My eyes landed on the wall behind a bookshelf. I knew this place like the back of my hand, but today something stood out. A small, almost imperceptible crack in the wallpaper. My heart skipped a beat. I pushed aside the bookshelf, revealing a hidden compartment in the wall. It was a small, metal safe embedded into the plaster. My pulse raced as I entered the combination I had guessed, 6 digits that had stuck in my mind for some reason. The safe clicked open, and I felt a strange sense of accomplishment, as though I had just unlocked something I wasn't meant to see. Inside, there was a thick envelope with my name on it. I opened it carefully, and inside were photographs. But they weren't of Lily. They were of me. Pictures from different moments in my life. At work, walking down the street, sitting in a cafe, my breath caught in my throat. How had they gotten these? Who was watching me? The last photo was the most disturbing. It showed a reflection of me in a store window. But in the background, just out of focus, was a shadowy figure. The man, the one I had seen in the mirror. I felt my legs go weak as I sank to the floor. A voice behind me startled me. "You found it." Jason's voice echoed through the room. I whipped around, my heart hammering. How did he get in? Why was he here? He was standing by the door, a smug look on his face, as if he had been expecting me. "You've been following me, haven't you?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. Jason didn't answer right away. He just stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "You're not the first person to ask questions, David. But trust me, you're getting too close. The more you dig, the more dangerous it becomes. I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I scoffed. "From what? And why have you been lying to me?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You don't get it, do you? There's more at stake here than you realize. The man you've been seeing, the one you think is following you, he's not just some random person. He's tied to everything. To Lily, to the past, and to the people who want to make sure the truth never comes out." The pieces were slowly coming together in my mind. The safe, the photographs, Jason's odd behavior. It all pointed to something much darker than I could have ever imagined. I was no longer just investigating a missing woman. This was bigger, much bigger. "Who is he?" I asked, barely able to keep my voice from shaking. Jason took a step back, looking more and more uneasy. "I can't tell you everything yet, but trust me when I say this. You have no idea who you're really up against, and the truth you're searching for. It will destroy you if you aren't careful." The room felt colder now, and I realized Jason wasn't just trying to warn me. He was afraid. Afraid of something or someone. Before I could say anything else, Jason turned and left, his footsteps echoing in the silence. I stood there, the envelope still in my hands, my mind reeling from what he had said. I had uncovered more questions than answers, and now I was trapped in a web of lies and danger, with no way out. Who was this man following me? And what did he want? I had a feeling I was about to find out, whether I was ready or not. The days were blending together now, each one more suffocating than the last. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was coming. The photo, the letter, Jason's cryptic warning. It all felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But I couldn't stop. I couldn't just walk away. Not now. I stood in my apartment, staring at the safe and the photos scattered on the floor. The reflection of the man, that shadow in the window. It felt like he was always just out of reach, lurking in the background, watching. The question that kept tormenting me was, why? Why was I being dragged into this? My phone rang, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was an unknown number, but I didn't hesitate. I answered it, holding my breath. "David," a voice on the other end whispered. It was a voice I didn't recognize, but somehow it felt familiar. "You've been digging too deep. You should stop. My heart skipped a beat. Who is this? What do you want? The voice on the other end chuckled softly, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. You don't get it, do you? You've already crossed the line. There's no turning back now. But if you want to survive, you'll listen to what I have to say. I stood frozen, trying to make sense of what was happening. What do you mean, survive? The voice lowered to a whisper, a sinister edge creeping in. They know you're getting too close. They'll come for you next. You need to find the truth before they find you. Before I could ask another question, the call ended. I stood there, holding the phone, my mind spinning. Was this just another person trying to manipulate me? Or was this someone trying to warn me? Whoever they were, they knew things I didn't. Things I wasn't ready to understand. I needed answers, and fast. But something felt off. Every step I took seemed to lead me further into the dark, deeper into the maze I couldn't escape. I decided to go back to the apartment building. There was something I hadn't checked yet, something that felt important. Maybe this time, I'd find the piece that would tie everything together. When I arrived, the building was eerily quiet, and the stairwell was empty, the air thick with tension. I walked past Lily's apartment, but then I stopped in my tracks. There was someone in the hallway, a figure standing by the window, looking out into the night. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck rise. My instincts told me to run, but I didn't. Instead, I approached cautiously. The figure turned, and my blood froze in my veins. It was him, the man I had seen in the reflection, the shadow. You shouldn't be here, David, he said, his voice calm, but with an unmistakable menace lurking beneath it. I felt a rush of panic surge through me. Who are you? What do you want from me? He took a slow step forward, his eyes dark, piercing through me. What I want is irrelevant. What matters is what you're going to do now. You've already opened the door, and now you must deal with the consequences. I backed away, my heart racing. What are you talking about? Who are you? He stepped closer, his smile twisted. I am part of something much bigger than you can imagine, and your curiosity will cost you. Without another word, he turned and walked into the darkness, leaving me standing in the hallway, my mind racing. I didn't know what to do. Every part of me wanted to run, but another part of me knew that would only lead to more questions, more danger. I needed to confront him. I needed to understand who he was and what he had to do with everything that had been happening. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't do this alone. I needed help. The next day, I reached out to Jason. He was the only person who seemed to know something, anything about what was happening. I called him, but he didn't answer. My frustration grew as I tried repeatedly, but there was no response. It was then that I made another decision. I had to go to the police. It was a last resort, but it seemed like the only option left. I wasn't sure they'd believe me, but I had to try. There were too many unanswered questions, and I wasn't going to let this man, whoever he was, get away with it. I walked into the police station, my nerves on edge. I tried to explain everything to the officer at the desk, but he just stared at me like I was some paranoid conspiracy theorist. Mister, I'm afraid there's not much we can do without solid evidence, he said dismissively. But then, just as I was about to leave, another officer, a woman with sharp eyes, stopped me. Wait a second, she said, looking over my shoulder. Are you David? From the case? My heart skipped. What case? The officer pulled out a file and opened it, revealing a picture of me. You're connected to the Lily Wilkes case, aren't you? We've been trying to piece it together. My mind spun. What do you mean? How? The officer leaned in, her voice low. There's something you need to understand, David. The people you're dealing with, they've been involved in things that go back decades. This isn't just about Lily. It's about something much bigger, something darker. My stomach churned as I listened to her. What was happening? Who were these people? What did they want with me? She stood up, closing the file. If you're serious about this, we need to talk. But you need to be careful. They don't stop. I nodded, my mind racing. I had no idea what I had gotten myself into. But I knew one thing for sure. The deeper I dug, the more dangerous things were getting. And now, it wasn't just about uncovering secrets. It was about survival. The weight of the officer's words hung heavily in the air. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I thought I knew had just unraveled. Lily's case wasn't just some random accident or a simple missing person story. It was part of something much more sinister, something that involved powerful forces I didn't understand. The officer, whose name turned out to be Detective Rachel Lawson, motioned for me to follow her down a narrow hallway. Her expression was serious, determined. We need to get to the bottom of this. But understand this. If you want to continue, you have to be ready for whatever comes next. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't have much of a choice anymore. I had already gone too far, and backing out now would mean abandoning the only lead I had. The dark figure, the cryptic warnings, the connection to Lily. I couldn't walk away. She opened the door to a small interrogation room and gestured for me to sit. As I did, she sat across from me, her eyes never leaving mine. The people behind this, they don't want to be found, she said, her voice steady but tinged with something darker, something I couldn't quite place. You think this is about one woman, one disappearance. It's not. This goes much deeper. We've been tracking these people for years. I leaned forward, trying to make sense of it. Who are they? What do they want? Rachel hesitated, looking over her shoulder as if making sure no one was listening. We don't know everything, but they're not your average criminals. These are people who have ties to ancient organizations, hidden societies. They deal in secrets, in control, and they've been operating under the radar for decades. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. What do you mean by deals in control? She took a deep breath, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. They don't just hurt people for money. They use fear, manipulation, and psychological warfare. They have a way of making people disappear, only to bring them back, changed. I blinked, trying to process her words. What do you mean changed? Rachel's gaze darkened. They use psychological conditioning, drugging, and even worse things. Things that warp a person's sense of reality. They're building something. And Lily was a part of it. She wasn't just a random victim. She was chosen. I felt a chill run through me. Chosen for what? She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. And if you're smart, you'll stay out of this. They won't hesitate to make you disappear too. But I couldn't back out now. I had already been pulled into the web, and I wasn't about to let it swallow me whole. Tell me what I need to do, I said, my voice steady despite the fear swirling in my chest. Rachel studied me for a moment and then nodded. We have a few leads. But I need to warn you again. You're walking into something you can't possibly understand. If you go after them, there's no turning back. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She knew I wasn't going to stop. The days that followed were a blur of dark revelations. Detective Lawson and I dug deeper into the files, searching for anything that could give us more information. But every lead seemed to vanish into thin air, and every piece of evidence we uncovered only raised more questions. Then, one evening, as I was poring over the case files in the station, I received another cryptic call. It was the same voice as before, the one that had warned me about digging too deep. You should have listened, David. The voice hissed through the receiver. You've dug too deep, and now you've uncovered something you shouldn't have. Who is this? What do you want from me? I shouted, frustration and fear building in my chest. The voice laughed, low and mocking. You'll understand soon enough. But before you do, know this. They know about you. They're coming for you, and you'll never see them coming." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hand trembling. "Who is this?" I shouted into the silence. But there was no answer. I tried to call Rachel, but the phone rang endlessly, unanswered. My stomach dropped. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just a warning anymore. It was a threat. I grabbed my coat and ran out of the station, the city streets feeling colder than usual. It wasn't until I reached the corner of the block that I realized I wasn't alone. I turned, my heart racing, and saw a figure standing in the shadows. The same man. The shadow. He was back. "You're getting too close, David," he said, stepping forward. His voice was calm, like he had all the time in the world. "You should have stayed away. Now you're part of something that will destroy you." I tried to back away, but he was faster. Before I could react, his hand shot out, grabbing my arm with a vice-like grip. "You don't know what you're dealing with," he growled, his face inches from mine. "The more you search, the more you lose. You can't fight what's already been set in motion." My breath came in short gasps. "What do you want from me? Who are you?" The man's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "I'm the one who's been watching, and I'm the one who'll end it." With that, he released me, stepping back into the shadows. I stood there for a moment, frozen in fear. But I knew one thing. The clock was ticking, and I was running out of time. The cold chill from the night air didn't compare to the growing sense of dread that clung to me. The shadowy figure had disappeared as quickly as he appeared, leaving nothing behind but the haunting words that echoed in my mind. I couldn't understand what was happening anymore. My quest to find Lily, to understand the disappearance of so many people, had spiraled into something far darker, something I wasn't prepared for. The forces I was up against were bigger than anything I could have ever imagined. I spent the next few days on edge, unable to shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper in the wind sent me into a panic. I couldn't trust anyone, not even Rachel. I'd learned too much, and it seemed like the deeper I dug, the more dangerous it became. Rachel, despite her warnings, hadn't called or reached out to me. I was alone in this, and I had no choice but to push forward. But the more I thought about the shadowy figure, the more I realized something crucial. He knew me. He knew exactly what I had been doing. And he knew about Lily, which meant that, somehow, I was connected to whatever they were doing. Even if I didn't fully understand it yet, I needed answers. I needed to confront the source of this nightmare head on. I couldn't do it alone. I called Rachel again, but this time the phone rang through. My heart sank. Something wasn't right. I left a message, hoping against hope that she would pick up soon. Then, I grabbed my jacket and headed to her office. The cold streets of the city felt like a labyrinth, each corner hiding more danger than the last. I had to find her before it was too late. When I arrived at the station, I was greeted by an unexpected silence. It was almost too quiet. The usual bustle of detectives and officers seemed absent, the lights dimmer than usual. A feeling of unease settled over me as I walked through the hallways. I found Rachel's office door ajar, a faint light glowing from within. My pulse quickened as I approached, and then I stopped dead in my tracks. The room was a mess. Papers were scattered across the floor, drawers were pulled open, and the window was wide open, the city night air flowing in, cold and unforgiving. But what stopped me in my tracks was the blood. It wasn't a small amount. It was everywhere. I ran to the desk, my breath shallow, eyes frantically scanning the room. There was no sign of Rachel, no body, but the blood was still fresh, still dripping from the edge of the desk. Then I saw it. A single piece of paper was pinned to the wall with a knife. I pulled it down, my hands trembling. The paper was old, torn around the edges, and the writing on it was scrawled in a frantic hand. They're coming for you. All of you. Don't trust anyone. They've already infiltrated everything. They are everywhere. The walls have ears, the shadows have eyes. The message was chilling. Who had left it there? And what did it mean? My mind raced. But before I could process any of it, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, almost dropping it in my haste. The message was from an unknown number, and the words made my stomach drop. I warned you, David. You shouldn't have come here. Now you're in too deep. This is where it ends. The blood on the walls, the message, it all connected. I was closer to something I wasn't ready for, something far more dangerous than I could handle. And I was being dragged further into its web. Suddenly, the door behind me slammed shut, and I spun around, hard in my throat. A figure stood in the doorway. It was Rachel, but something was different about her. Her eyes were vacant, almost soulless, and her once confident demeanor was replaced with something colder, more menacing. Rachel, I whispered, fear flooding my chest. She stepped forward, her movements slow and deliberate. You should have stayed away, David, she said, her voice flat. It's too late now. I took a step back, confusion and fear battling within me. What do you mean? What's happening? Rachel's lips curled into a smile, but it wasn't a reassuring smile. It was twisted, knowing. You think you can stop this? You can't even see it for what it is. You never understood what we're up against. I warned you, but you didn't listen. Now you'll see. And then, in the blink of an eye, everything changed. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the room. Rachel's eyes seemed to glow in the dim light, and her skin began to take on an unnatural pallor. My mind raced, but I couldn't make sense of it. She wasn't the same person. This wasn't Rachel. The shadows in the room seemed to come alive, moving and shifting like they had a life of their own. I backed away, heart hammering in my chest. And then I heard it, a low growl, barely audible over the sound of my own breath. The shadows were converging, stretching toward me. Rachel, what's happening? I shouted, fear taking hold of me. Her expression didn't change. You're too late, David. It's already begun. And now, you'll be a part of it too. Before I could react, a hand shot out of the shadows, grabbing me by the throat. I gasped, struggling to breathe, but the grip was unyielding. Goodbye, David, Rachel whispered, her voice barely a breath in the air. The world around me started to blur. My vision swam, and my thoughts began to spiral. I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. And then, just as quickly as it had started, the grip on my throat loosened. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air, my mind reeling. The darkness around me seemed to grow thicker, more oppressive, as if it were alive, consuming everything in its path. And in the distance, I heard the faintest of whispers, a voice I couldn't place, but one that seemed to come from everywhere. It's just beginning. I woke up with a start, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was dimly lit, the shadows stretching and curling around the walls like they had a life of their own. My throat was raw, and my body ached as if I had been through a violent struggle. But what disturbed me the most was the silence. The oppressive, suffocating silence. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl, as if the world around you is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I slowly sat up, looking around. Rachel was gone. The office was in shambles, just like it had been moments ago. The blood on the walls, the messages, it was all real. The terror I had felt was real. The shadows that had tried to swallow me whole, that had been real too. But Rachel, she had to be real as well. This couldn't be some nightmare. She was still out there, and I needed to find her. I stumbled to my feet, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. Where was she? What had happened to her? And what the hell was going on? Had she become a part of whatever dark force was taking hold of this city? I picked up my phone, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw a new message. It was from an unknown number, a number I had never seen before. "It's over, David. The end has come. You should have stayed away." I stared at the words, my heart sinking. The message was chilling, like a warning, a threat, but it wasn't enough to stop me. I couldn't back down now. I had come too far, uncovered too much, to turn back. If Rachel was still out there, if she had truly been consumed by whatever this was, then I had to stop it. For her, for everyone. I rushed out of the office and onto the street. The city seemed different now. The streets were darker, more foreboding, as if the very atmosphere had been tainted. The people I passed seemed to move with an eerie sense of purpose, their faces empty, as if they were unaware of the terror that had gripped the world. I didn't have much time. Whatever was happening, it was accelerating, and I was certain Rachel was involved. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was in danger. Worse, that she had become something unrecognizable. I made my way to the underground tunnels beneath the city. It was the only place I hadn't explored. It was the only place that seemed to be untouched by the darkness that had taken over. As I descended into the depths, the air grew colder, heavier. The further I went, the more distorted the world around me became. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows playing tricks on my eyes. And then I saw it. A faint light ahead, a glow in the distance, barely visible in the thick darkness. I hurried towards it, every step echoing in the silence. As I got closer, I saw a figure standing there. A woman. It was Rachel, but she wasn't herself. Her hair was matted with blood, her eyes glazed over. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. She looked empty, hollow, like a shell of the woman I once knew. "Rachel," I whispered, my voice breaking. She turned slowly, and for the briefest moment, I saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. Instead, her mouth curled into a twisted grin. "You shouldn't have come here, David," she said, her voice cold and detached. "It's too late for you." "Rachel, please," I reached out to her, desperate. "What's happening? What have they done to you?" She took a step back, her eyes narrowing. "It's not just me, David. It's all of us. We're all part of it now, part of something bigger. And you're next." Before I could react, she lunged at me. The force of her attack knocked me to the ground, the breath knocked out of me. My mind screamed for me to fight, but I couldn't. I couldn't fight her, not like this, not when she was so far gone. But then something changed. Something snapped inside of me. I realized that I had no choice. If I didn't fight now, if I didn't stop her, then everything I had uncovered, everything I had fought for, would be lost. Pushed her off me, my hands shaking as I stood to my feet. "I won't let you win, Rachel. I won't let this happen." She stared at me, her eyes filled with something dark, something ancient. "You can't stop it. No one can." And then, just as quickly as she had attacked me, she was gone, disappeared into the shadows, leaving me alone in the darkness. Stood there, breathless, trembling. The weight of what had just happened hit me like a ton of bricks. I had failed her. I had failed to save Rachel. But the worst part? It wasn't over. The darkness was still out there, waiting, watching. And now, I had no choice but to face it. Took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I had uncovered too many truths, made too many enemies to back down now. I would fight. I would destroy the evil that had taken root in this city, no matter the cost. But the shadows were closing in, and this time, there would be no escape. The end.